audio recorder. That's good enough. Just the PowerPoints. We got to go back, right? I think we're ready. All right, we're ready to start. This is the September 20th, 2022 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals and Zoning. Present here today are Howell Morrison, Robin Richards, John Bennett, Bill Goodwin Jr., Chappie McKay, and me, your chair, Jeff Tibbles. Present from staff here this evening are Lee Batchelder, Penny Ashby, and Omar Muhammad. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak please identify yourself for the record. We will conduct this meeting in the usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and the recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, usually the Board of Zoning Appeals treats the matter as being uncontested and passes it as a matter of course. If, however, the city recommends against the application or if there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested, and then we hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone who is opposed to the application, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals Zoning has the authority to do three things. Number one, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Number two, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And number three, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Pursuant to the code, anyone who speaks tonight has to be sworn in under oath. And so anybody who plans to speak, I ask, raise your right hand, please. I'm going to ask you, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You'll signify by saying, I do. Thank you. We do have one deferral on the agenda for tonight. It is item A2, that is for 30 Pinckney Street in Ansonboro. So if you are here to speak in support or opposition to agenda item A2, 30 Pinckney Street, you can be excused because that item has been deferred from this evening's agenda. So we'll start with A1, review of the minutes and deferred applications for previously advertised BZA-Z agendas. Number one is review of the minutes of the September 6, 2022 board meeting. We do have a copy of those agenda minutes in draft form. Do I hear a motion? Thank you. Bennett moves to approve. Mr. Morrison seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. The ayes have it. The motion passes. The minutes from September 6th are approved. The next item on our agenda, because A2 has been deferred, is Section B, new applications. Number 1 is 78 Haygood Avenue in Hampton Park Terrace, PMS number 460-02-04-146, zone DR-1F. Request special exception under section 54-110 to allow a horizontal expansion, stairs, master bedroom, closets, bathrooms, laundry, and vertical extension, bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, that extends a non-conforming 13.3-foot total side setback, 15 feet are required. Also requesting a variance from section 54-301 to allow a stair addition with a 5-foot south side setback, 9 feet are required. The owners are Sheila and Steve Harvey. The applicant is Brian Wells, P.E. Mr. Batchelder.
78 Haygood is a residential property in the Hampton Park Terrace neighborhood. And it sits across the street from the Citadel campus. The home that is there is a one-story home. The zoning map. This is the aerial view showing the one-story home with that green dot on it. And the house itself meets the minimum north side setback of 3 feet. Minimum south side setback of 9 feet, but there's a total side setback requirement of 15 feet. So somewhere you got to make up the difference, and it doesn't satisfy that requirement. It's 1.7 feet shy of meeting that 15-foot total side setback requirement. So that is the nature of the first request. And what's proposed, here's the street view. What is proposed is a 2-story addition on the back of the house. So see the existing site plan here, and proposed shows the addition extending off the back of the existing house, and it will end up being 2 stories. And then, so that's request number 1. You can see it's in line with the existing house, the rear addition, and that requires a special exception. Light and air impacts are, I think, most applicable here. And request number 2 has to do with the variance to allow the stair, which is on the south side of the proposed addition. You can see there's a landing through a door and then steps that lead towards the backyard. That stair addition off the ground floor of this house is 5 feet from the south side property line. So that requires a variance. And the applicant has been working on these plans for a while, and the project was on the agenda 2 weeks ago, but then the plans changed slightly, so we had to re-advertise it and get it back before you. And it's here tonight. So it's been posted a number of times, and we haven't heard of any objections or concerns from anybody. I think there's been some support from neighbors as well. So our recommendation is for approval of this request, and I can just go through the rest of the slides. Here's a blow up of that floor plan, and you see those stairs coming off the side of the house towards the back, and then you see the addition with the stairs on the inside that get you up to the second floor. Show you the elevations here. That's the main house. So there's the front elevation, the rear elevation on the right, side elevations. So I think the important thing here, and you know, the neighbors certainly can have a say in express their concerns, but the important thing is that I think the footprint of the house meets the minimum 3-foot setback and the minimum south side setback. So a slight adjustment would make it totally compliant, remove all issues that would require board approval, but that slight adjustment would be so slight it would be virtually, I think, imperceptible. So for all those reasons, I recommend approval of this request.
All right, thank you, Lee. Is there anybody here who is in opposition to the application for 78 Haygood Street? If you're in opposition, just raise your hands. All right, we see no one in opposition to the 78 Haygood application. I see the owner is here, applicant, Mr. Leesman, you're here on behalf of the applicant. Anything you'd like to say to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Tibbles. We just would appreciate both approval and what we're here to ask or answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Leesman. Questions for the applicant?
I do have a question,
Lee.
Ms. Bradshaw. If we took the stairs that are on the south side out, I'm just curious, would the accessory dwelling unit have any impact on the, because that's still 5'6", would that be still included?
Well, that's not
Or is
a
that
matter
back
for the
and
board
forth?
tonight. They actually have an approval and permit for that building.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for the applicant? Your motion?
Move approval.
All right, Mr. Morrison has moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Well, second.
All right, Mr. Bennett is seconding the motion for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None are opposed. The ayes have it unanimously. The special exception and the variance for 78 Haygood Avenue are approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
New applications under section B, number 2, 7 Atlantic Street, Charlestown, TMS number 457-16-04-077, zoned SR4. Request special exception under section 54-110 to allow a horizontal expansion stair porch and vertical extension stair second floor porch that extends a non-conforming 3.2-foot west side setback. 9 feet are required. Request variance, also requesting a variance from section 54-301 to allow stair porch addition having a 46% lot occupancy, 25% limitation. Existing lot occupancy is 45.18%. The owners are Paula and Ben Glenn. The applicant is Tommy Manuel. Mr. Batchelder.
So this is a residential property on Atlantic Street in the Charleston neighborhood. And you see on this map that it sits mid-block on Atlantic Street. There are 2 properties on Church that back up to this property. And so the addition or the change that's being reviewed tonight is on that southwest corner of the house on Atlantic Street, and it sort of butts both of those rear property lines. And here's a view of the house on the zoning map footprint. And then here's an aerial view of the houses. And so there's an existing patio in that darkly shaded rear corner on the southwest corner of the house. And what they'd like to do is replace it with a porch, stair, and that's the nature of the request. Photographs of the property. This is what's there today. And you can see it has this trellis over it as well. That gets removed, and they get a new porch in its place with the stair, the circular stair. And this porch is 2 stories, one porch for each floor with a staircase that provides access. So you see in the elevations the proposed views of that. And that is the request that requires the special exception and variance. The variance is for the stair addition, which increases the lot occupancy, but the changes on the Ellis patio to a porch, two-story porch, are what requires a special exception. So I think it seems to be fairly minimal in terms of its impact, and we actually do have letters of support from both the owners of 26 Church Street and 24 Church Street. Those are the two properties on Church that back up to this side of the 7 Atlantic Street property. So, and we're not aware of any objections or concerns from anybody else. So I think they've met their requirements. Lot occupancy typically on a lot of these lots downtown is much higher than the 35% limitation. Actually, it says 25, but it's actually a 35% limitation on many of these zoning districts downtown. So what they're ending up with 46% lot occupancy is not uncommon. And of course, it is a relatively small lot. So for all those reasons, I recommend approval of the request.
All right, thank you, Lee. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against the application for 7 Atlantic Street? All right, no one is here to speak in opposition to the request for special exception and variance. The other applicant here.
I'm the general contractor. The architect can make it.
Okay.
Any construction related questions I can answer.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the city or for the applicant via the general contractor? All right, no questions, no opposition. Do I hear a motion? All right, Mr. McKay moved to approve.
Second.
All right, Mr. Goodwin seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes. The special exception and variance for 7 Atlantic Street are granted. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is B3 for President Place, Cannonboro, Elliottboro, TMS number 460-11-04-141, zone GB. Request special exception under section 54-501 to allow construction of a single-family residence on a lot of insufficient size. Lot area is 1,706 square feet, 2,500 square feet are required. The owner, Spring and President LLC, J. David D'Annunzio. Applicant is John Douglas Tucker, architect. Mr. Batchelder.
So this is a vacant lot in the Cannonboro, Elliottboro neighborhood. And notice it's zone general business. This is in the west end of the neighborhood. This whole area over here along President Street is zone general business or some sort of commercial. But many of the properties are residential. So it's a little bit unusual, but and you can see on this map that this is a relatively small lot. There are a couple of similar sized lots on the other side, and then some narrow lots, and larger lots, a whole hodgepodge of lots. And a lot of these have residential homes on them already. Some are used commercially, but most are residential. Here's an aerial view showing the existing homes on those lots, and the subject lot here, which has been used for parking. And I think the larger building to the south, that is a church. So That is the immediate area. And zoning map showing that commercial zoning that applies. Application, applicant's materials. There was a house on this lot at some point in the past, and I don't know what ever happened to it, but it is no longer there. And so the applicant is proposing to construct a house shown here. And it's a very modest sized home, which I like to see on these very modest sized lots. So it's not trying to cram a large house on a small lot, like I see quite a bit. And it meets all the setback requirements. So see, it has a 3-foot east side setback and meets the west side setback requirement and rear setback and everything. So the only issue is the fact that the lot is so small. It's 1,706 feet versus the 2,500 required. Again, we've got homes on either side, and the parking is being met with the driveway space to the left of the house and one space under the house. So just move through these. So the floor plan showing the parking space at the ground level. And then the proposed house with the parking garage, ground floor, and the streetscape, that will fit in. They'll have to go to the BAR as well. First step is to get zoning issues resolved. That's that, and we're not aware of any objections or concerns on this. And again, I think it's a very good proposal for a lot of this size, and so my recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Lee. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application for 4 President Place? All right, I see no one in opposition. Do we have the owner or applicant present this evening? Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say to the board about the application? Any board member have any questions for the city or for the applicant?
I want to ask about the parking. How big is the house?
I don't know off the top of my head.
1,200. Okay. Thank you.
Lee, I have a question. Does the city's general business zoning permit single-family residential?
Yes.
I have a question as well. It seems unlikely, but it's this, and I guess I can't speak to BAR's likely ruling on this, but it seems like street-facing garage entries might be a challenge for an architectural standpoint. I think it's probably incompatible with the rest of the neighborhood, considering it's sandwiched by 2 single-family houses or Charleston single houses. Is the I guess the under the ground floor parking is sort of the solution to having required 2 on-site spaces. Is that right? Okay. So if for some reason the parking on the ground level were not permitted by VAR, would it come back to us if they wanted to retool that and create 2 spaces on the site?
Well, I believe that they could probably do that by reworking the site plan and probably eliminating the pool.
Yeah,
Please,
we
yes.
could, I'm anticipating some concerns about the garage underneath. Obviously, it's a flood and the rate of the house, approximately 7 feet. So there'll be a trade-off whether VR will allow that extra foot. So if you go back to the site plan,
Oh, I can't go back.
we could,
Sorry.
the lot is deep enough that I can do the stacked parking on the west side.
Okay.
So the pool would adjust over, so we wouldn't come back with spaces, just have a high crawl space. So we wouldn't come back to the
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you. Yeah.
Because I was noticing you're in the AE11, so you're AE11 plus 2, so you're at 13 for your first floor finish.
Yeah, grade is around 5 to 6 feet there.
Any questions? All right, no further questions, no opposition. Do I hear a motion? All right, Mr. Richards moves to approve. Second. Mr. Morrison seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. The motion passes unanimously. The special exception for 4 President Place is granted. Thank you, sir. The final item on this evening's agenda, B4, 76 Pitt Street, Radcliffeboro, TMS number 460-16-03-058, zoned DR1, requesting a variance from section 54-301 to allow a detached accessory building storage shed with a 50-foot front setback, 70 feet are required. Owner is Sarah Ashton. Applicant is Clark Glidewell, architect. Mr. Batchelder.
This is in Radcliffeboro, residential property, and this is pretty minor, but you'll see that there's an existing house on the property. This zoning map shows the footprint of the house. It's up front, and then there's a large backyard. Another view of the property, and one thing you'll notice here is that there are large trees on and around the property. When we get to the site plan, you'll see those trees. So here's the existing house, photographs of the site, and site plan. And so that highlighted box on the right, on the site plan on the right, is the shed that they want to build. And this is a blow up of that site. And you see the proposed shed immediately behind the existing house. And you also see the large trees that are in the backyard of this property and the one that's on the neighboring property. And that 27, I think it's a 27 or 28 inch pecan is a grand tree, so that has to be protected under city ordinances, and that limits where they could put this shed. And so they don't want to infringe upon those protective zones with the shed, so they've cited it here. And the issue is that the shed, even though it's behind the house, is not far enough back to meet the city's zoning setback requirement for accessory buildings, which is the dashed line that runs through that pecan tree canopy shown on this site plan. So the issue is to allow a variance for that shed to be a little bit closer to the street. It's behind the house, and certainly won't adversely impact anybody. Here are some elevations so you get a sense of it. Lots of other information here, but here's the proposed shed and more information. There's a elevation you see on the bottom, the proposed shed. That'd be the view from the property to the north, and property to the south would have that view. The signatures from other property owners in the immediate area. So anyway, we recommend approval of this request. It's pretty minor, as you can see, and I think they have a legitimate hardship just given the trees on the site.
Thank you, Lee, and I think there's a notation that the Radcliffeboro president is this application favorably as well. Last signature on it. All right, is there anyone here in opposition to the application for 76 Pitt Street? All right, hearing no one in opposition, have the owner or applicant here.
Shelley Bud Lidewell.
Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. Any questions from any board members for the city or for the applicant? No questions, no opposition. Do I hear a motion?
Move for approval.
Mr. Bennett moves to approve. Mr. McKay seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. The motion passes. The variance for 76 Pitt Street is approved. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
We've got a question about 24 6th Street. How do we have it, how do we come before the board?
What's the issue?
The issue is that we met all this, we had all permits that we would stop work, came back, we had an engineer needed, came back, we got the thing done. They come back and they hit us again, they stop work.
Okay.
We got a group from the zoning board, zoning, it's okay, they get a permit. And they keep coming back every time we go get a permit, they come back, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. But everything we do is, we're trying to do it right.
If you give me your name and phone number, I can kind of look at that property on my screen tomorrow and try and figure out who you should be talking to and give you a call.
Where is the property located, sir?
24 Cedar Street.
Yeah. That
I mean,
just
we
north
did-
of Lee
we did
Street?
wrong in the beginning. We did do wrong. It's just the permit position wrong.
Yeah.
Everything said that was wrong. But we just want to do everything back above board, do everything right.
Is that just north of Lee Street? No?
No.
No. Okay, that's a different property.
I see this. They're going up Maxwell.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, but if I can get contact information from you, then I can check when I call you. Okay? We can do that. This won't be the meeting though to address those issues.
So
So,
I do know that.
We didn't have that.
yeah.
Five fifteen.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay. I think about that.
Jensen Lake.
Yeah. You got a card or? Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, sure, absolutely. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Always good to stay busy.
Stay busy.
I'm glad
So
to hear
busy.
that.